I honestly think Classroom of the Elite might be one of the most interesting or fascinating anime adaptations that has ever existed. And I mean, I talked about it like last week in terms of like, is it rushed? Is it this, that, or the third? And pretty much universally, source readers always say this is a rushed anime adaptation. Yet, surprisingly, it remains successful both on anime originals, like anime only perspectives, but also the people who read the source material. And there's a lot to like dive into just that aspect alone, but I think what makes an episode like this so fascinating is I think most people are probably going to agree that this arc went by rather quick. 2 episodes, probably a light novel's worth of content done in 2 episodes. Yet at the same time, I don't think many people's enjoyment of the series is going to kind of dwindle down, kind of go away. If anything, people are probably going to leave this episode pretty excited at the idea that Manabu's class now is whatever rank they're at, because this girl is about to be expelled and kind of go down with the ship because, well, this boy, he's a psychopathic, insanely interesting antagonist. Nagumo is like such a brilliant mind in terms of how he was trying to screw over Manabu, and the idea of using your entire class's points to save her as you go down, whereas someone like him, he pretty much has every second year under his thumb, so it's just a little bit of points from everyone. That shit is fascinating, and that's going to keep so many people saying, this seems like that's going to be a way more interesting arc going forward, wherever they're going to go from here. But I think we're all going to universally say that this was probably a rushed arc, and honestly, I think most people are going to say that's okay, because of the mixture of source readers telling me that this was arguably one of the weaker books from the series, and I think anime only saying, well, we've already seen relay races, we've already seen tests, do we really need to see more? It's just fascinating that a show that is universally considered rushed is something that continues to get more popular with time and doesn't dwindle down like so many others. It's honestly a case study that should probably be studied, but honestly, as maybe rushed as this episode felt, I leave it more excited than ever for the future of Classroom of the Elite. Now, I do have a full live reaction episode 2 of Season 3 over on my Patreon, so if you would like to see my full and good thoughts as we watch today's episode, it's over there if you're interested. Now, I think overall, this arc, do I wish it was longer? I mean, seemingly it's over. I mean, if it's not, I will be surprised. But in terms of them going through the tests, I mean, we got the only thing that really lasted a decent length was the relay race, and we only saw a couple of the people run. But honestly, I don't feel like I needed to see more than they showed me. There's always a couple of things that I feel like do stick out like a sore thumb as an anime only, and some people brought it up last week. We didn't really see like the teams and stuff reformed, or sometimes we don't see how people get maybe a new rank and whatnot. But I think the idea of just getting through this little test makes sense, because I don't see what would have been more interesting for an anime if we would have slowed anything particular down. Like, there's like a 5-minute conversation with a couple of people during the night scene around the midway portion of the episode, and that doesn't feel rushed in the slightest. I think in general, the character dialogue that needs to be there to keep us connecting and seeing where mentalities are going is always relevant in this show. But I think in terms of just looking at it objectively, it feels sped through. Maybe it might have been like that in the source material, and if that's the case, and that's just how the author wrote it. But I think in general, it's hard to deny that this does feel like a rushed production, but I wouldn't change that. And someone made an interesting comment last week about how, like, if they properly adapted this show in terms of how maybe a lot of source readers want it to be adapted, we would probably be at this point in the anime by like season 6 or longer. And I think thinking about what I've seen over Classroom of the Elite, well, maybe there's a handful extra episodes that I would have enjoyed seeing. That probably would have killed an anime's pacing and most likely killed the anime's popularity for a lot of people, because you have to understand the mediums are different. Reading something and watching something are two very different experiences. And I think a lot of the people who have enjoyed the more snappy nature of watching Aino Koji go absolutely crazy might not be here at season 3 if it was stretched out longer. Not saying the light novels or whatever shouldn't be like that, but it is an interesting case study in a way, because this probably is one of the fastest paced arcs. I mean, usually something like this would be like 3 episodes to get to them going home, right? But this was 2 episodes, in and out, we're done. But honestly, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the weirdo, but like, I don't feel like I'm missing out by being like, oh, I wish this wasn't rushed. Like, it feels weird to admit, but it feels good that they kind of got through this, because looking at what they delivered, I don't see a lot in this arc that would have made me say, I really hope they take their time. No, I want to see where they go now, because they literally end on such a bombastic cliffhanger in a way. I mean, Aino Koji, he didn't do a whole lot in terms of what he normally would do, kind of scheming, preparing, making sure everyone's a-okay. I mean, one dude literally is limping, he has to do a relay race. Yeah, that could be something. Or, oh, maybe we need to get Big Musclehead over here to work with us, and he clearly knows our secret. And nothing really goes into a manipulation plot point. Instead, it's just the classes kind of working together as they normally would. So it's kind of interesting, kind of just getting to the big moment of the episode, which is they were just trying to screw this girl over. And honestly, it kind of feels like they were trying to do that just because of the, well, I want to see what your face is going to look like. And I think that makes him a very interesting antagonist, because for Manabu, his class got first place, right? Like, they were fine. Everything was looking a-okay. But unfortunately, when you go down, someone has to take someone with you. And that's like, I honestly thought it was going to be him specifically, but instead, no, it's all about wanting to take people out near him and close to him one by one just to make him suffer. And the idea of Aino Koji ending this episode saying that, from this point on, people are going to drop like flies. They're going to be one after the other, boom, boom, boom. And honestly, it's going to be interesting to see where they go, because, I mean, when she pops up saying, hey, would you do the same thing? He's saying, I won't let you go down. I do believe that at face value, but at the same time, I don't know, man. Like, our boy is crazy, and it'll be interesting to see where they take him. I don't really think either episode 1 or episode 2 of season 3 did anything that surpasses any of the greatness of season 2 or even season 1, but it didn't feel like a waste of time either. It just feels like, as weird as it is to admit, if this is considered rush pacing, and if somehow it's not, I mean, for an anime only, it feels that way, just in the way of like, oh, it just feels like very snappy, like we're jumping around different sections or different time points of this arc. But it's like, this didn't feel like it would have been the craziest arc anyway, and it feels like there's more interesting things coming up. And from what I've been seeing in my comments from last week's video, is that the stuff coming up is much more interesting, and if something needs to get rushed so that a different arc could be well adapted, this is the way to do it. But like I've always said, like, some people do disagree. Like, I've always seen that since season 1, is that this has one of the more vocal criticisms for its anime adaptation. There's a large section of source readers who despised how rushed it is. Then there's plenty of anime onlys who say, wait, it's rushed? That seems normal to me. And like, that's half the time me being like, with the amount of dialogue and slow-paced moments, I mean, this wouldn't feel rushed to me more often than not, but in episodes like these, yeah, it definitely does. And then of course there's the source readers who say, listen, it would take us till season 12 to get to half of these points. This is just the way it's got to be. We expect that things will be cut or changed because that's just how adaptations work. But I think the big point to take away from all this conversation surrounding this episode, and episode 1 as well, is that this is probably one of the most interesting cases of an anime adaptation being universally agreed as being a rushed, sometimes a rushed mess, yet the popularity has only increased with time for the anime counterpart, which you don't see a lot of, because usually when stuff gets butchered with how some people are talking about it, it would start not being as popular. Yet somehow by season 3 the show seemingly is getting more popular, which just is a testament to how strong the source material is. And honestly, you do have to give props to the anime team, because with whatever cutting they're doing, it's keeping the anime fans' attention, so they're doing something right. I'm excited for the future of this one. I think it ended on a pretty interesting cliffhanger, all things considered, and I don't really feel like I missed out by not seeing more of the race or the tests or anything else they did. It didn't really feel like it would have been that interesting to see that stuff, but maybe it was more interesting in the source material because you get all the internal thoughts and stuff that you can't really get in the anime. But let me know what you're feeling down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more of the channel. And like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, you also get a video shout out. Alright, so today we have Shadow Clone Rex, Zane Sardonks, Winter's Harmony, Chris Beck, Still Zero, and Natasha N. Henry. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.